I've been in Evansville since 1981, and I'm not sure why I like it here, other than I'm married and working here, so I'm pretty well stuck here. But in general, you know, a lot of nice people, and especially the EPG, some of my favorite people. I feel like I finally belong in Evansville now that I've met a lot of people from the EPG. In the past, I was always involved with things through the kids' activities, but they're both grown and gone now, so it's time for me. And so that's what's keeping me here. It's photography, a job, husband, but I've been here since 1981. I first picked up a camera probably when I was in grade school. My mom was always taking pictures, and even my grandmother took pictures and did painting, so I've always been interested in sort of the visual arts in that respect. But since I was a kid, I begged and begged for a camera. I had a Kodak Instamatic pocket camera with the 110 film cartridge. That's where I was excited, the most excited to get my very first camera. And when I was, probably would call myself a photographer in the last 2 years, but I've been taking pictures all that time in between that very first real camera that I considered real at the time and what I'm doing now with the higher end Canon cameras, the DSLRs. So most of the time over the years, I've taken pictures of pets, then eventually of my own children. When I went to England 31 years ago, I took a lot of pictures. I took 10 rolls of film in a little film X-ray proof bag, and that's where I really realized I just love taking pictures. So I've just been doing it all along, and when I had kids, their activities and that type of thing. Now that the kids are gone, I don't have as many kid-based activities to do, but I'm not having any trouble finding other subjects. Mostly landscape photography and you know, nature, and trying to get into some sort of fine art. So in the last couple of years, really, I've really hit it hard. My favorite things to photograph would really be nature. And I know that some people say that with a person in the scene, it's boring, but I just find peace and some sort of internal relaxation when I'm doing nature, because it's the experience of being there is what I'm going for. So I'm wanting to capture the moment as I felt it, as well as how I saw it, because when I go back later and look at that picture, I can pretty much go right back to how I felt and what I saw at the time. I like to preserve nature. I also like to do nature because even though a lot of people say, oh, that's been done before, you know, that particular scene, it's always changing. The light is changing, the colors are changing, and sometimes some things are not that way ever again. So you've caught the only time it ever looked like that. So that's what I like about nature photography. Landscapes, you know, all of that. And I'm trying to get more into fine art. So with fine art, I'm trying to do more abstract images. I want to take images that evoke emotion in people. Even if there aren't people in the pictures, I want to take pictures that evoke emotion in the viewer, the picture. So what really defines my style? I would say right now just nature, landscape, and just mostly realistic pictures, but I do like to dabble in running them through software like Topaz, Impression, and other things to tweak them, play with them a bit, and do something creative, which I feel like sometimes I can do more with scenery pictures than with people pictures. Now, if it's a fun model shoot, that's a whole different thing. But if it's like people wanting, oh, take our family photos, I don't care for that. And I don't feel like I can do creative, fun things with those types of pictures, because that's not what they're wanting. They don't want to see themselves as an oil painting, for the most part. But I like to run things through software that gives it that look. I have quite a few goals as a photographer. One, and I've just formulated them in the last 6 months to a year. Get into stock photography, which I've stuck one toe in so far. I have to spend more time at that because it is very time consuming, even though everyone thinks, oh, it's so easy to do. Got to find the right images, got to keyword them just right, and they can get rejected once you've submitted them, so it's not a simple, oh, well, no-brainer type of thing. The other area is I want to get more into galleries in the area, in Evansville. So I became a member of the Arts Council of Southwestern Indiana this year, and I have not regretted it at all. I've entered one exhibition, didn't make it, but I'm also now doing the First Fridays, which is exciting. Had my first Friday last night, first Friday, and I am now going to, the next step is to get into some of the actual galleries in the area, like 22 Jefferson Street and some of the others. I'm starting to make those connections both with other artists who are helping me to connect with those gallery owners, that type of thing. So maybe have put some things up for sale in the Arts Council's office as well, because they have a small consignment shop. So I'm looking at that type of thing. Plus I have 2 online sites, and I try to sell things there. I sell just a little bit each year to, well, sort of justify the cost of one and pay for the other. So just pretty much that, trying to sell more of my stuff, get myself out there, get my name into the community as an artist. Those are my goals. Other than that, eventually the goal would be to do this after I retire in 4 to 5 years or so, or whenever I can afford it. But my bigger bucket list goal would be to go to the national parks and capture some of that scenery and hopefully try to sell that someday. My favorite piece of gear would definitely have to be my Canon 5D Mark III, which I bought from the Canon refurbished site. Everybody should try that. Because it's a full frame sensor, I can gather more light, so it's ideal for low light situations, for night photography, things like that, astrophotography. It's also good for landscape. Obviously, that would be a great camera for a landscape photographer. So I can get, more of the scene that I'm trying to capture. It is a heavy camera to tote around. I'm not quite thinking mirrorless just yet. I'm going to heft around this thing for a few more years, but it is definitely was worth the investment. I don't regret it at all. And I had moved up from a T4i, so this is, like I said, a bigger, meatier, heavier camera, but I'm still mastering all of the controls, but it's something that I would say is my favorite piece of equipment for sure. I print my work, and I just started doing that I was sort of not forced to do it, but when Tom asked about doing the Funk in the City, that was the kick in the seat of the pants I needed, because I had 1 or 2 things printed and I didn't like them at all, and not enough to submit or to try to sell in a booth situation at an arts crafts show. So I started printing quite a few things to prepare for that, and it's sort of hit or miss sometimes. I'm still trying to get the calibration on the computer and all of that set up. I do have a new monitor, so that helps, brand new iMac, and with a 27-inch monitor, so I can see flaws better, I can see colors better, that type of thing. I'm still trying to learn all the different places I send things to, so I've done canvases, I've done prints, I've done metal prints, I've done greeting cards, I've done calendars, and I've done them in a variety of places, so I'm starting to get a feel for which vendors I like the best and which ones I think do the job I want to do that represent my work the best. So those, I like the Ansel project, which is where I've had some canvases done. Canvas on Demand and Canvas on Demand Pro are some good ones. MPix is another one, MPix Pro. I've done the, here's a brain fart. I've done greeting cards through Zazzle, Z-A-Z-Z-L-E, and I've done calendars through Vistaprint. And most of those I'm pretty happy with the quality, and it is really cool to see your stuff physical, because I'm doing everything like most people digital. You take a digital picture, it goes straight to the computer, you can do all kinds of things you want to it, but getting it in print makes it more real, and it's more of a commitment too. You can't print everything. It's expensive, and maybe not everything's obviously worth printing, but it makes you stop and select things a little more scrutinized. Like, do I really want to spend the money to print that? If I print that, who am I printing it for? To hang on my wall, to give as a gift, to try to sell somewhere like a gallery or an art show. So it makes me think more also at the very beginning of the picture taking process. Why am I taking this picture, and who am I taking it for? What is my end goal for this image that I'm going to create? So that's what I like about printing. It kind of makes me think in advance, even though I'm considering the end all at the same time. I'm probably around a 6 or so, maybe 5, 6, 7. It's hard to say. I don't really think of it like that. I know I certainly need to improve composition. Who doesn't? I always feel like that's a weak point for me, that I have to work really hard to envision and see something, and to intentionally place things in the field of the view of the camera, framing things. I know I just need to work better on composition, because a lot of times I have so many misses and occasional hits. I want to turn that ratio around to have more hits and fewer misses when I take pictures. I want to think through, I want to be able to see things a whole lot better. So I think I still have a lot of room for improvement. I want to see light color, I want to see better color better. I want to see design and patterns and things like that better than I do. So those are the areas I think I need to improve on. Even if people say, oh, your stuff is great or whatever, I mean, sometimes you have to think about where the compliments are coming from. Are they coming from another person who's had fine arts or photographic or other type of training, or are they coming from just the average person who, a crooked horizon's okay with them because they don't realize it's crooked, and then you have to weigh the input that you're getting from the source. So I think I still have a lot of improvement to make. Every time I'm taking pictures, I feel like I'm doing something a little bit different than I did before, always learning from my mistakes, always trying to make myself better and my pictures better as well. What led me to the EPG? Well, it was my desire for, and this is awful, more likes on my pictures. I know we're not supposed to like that sort of thing or want that, but really, I was putting pictures on my own Facebook page, and we get next to nothing, and I know people were seeing things, but I have a lot of people that don't put likes on my pictures and comments and stuff like that, yet they see what I post, so I know they're looking. And I was like, this is just really frustrating. And I was seeing people put things up with crazy horizons and all this other stuff, really crappy cell phone pictures, and they were getting tons of likes. And I thought, I'm going to find a place where my photography might be more appreciated. And I just typed into the search bar in Facebook, Evansville photography, and the word group came up, and I was like, what's that? So I clicked on that, and I was like, oh, and I scrolled down the page and looked, and it's like, okay, people had some really good pictures there, and there was a little join button, so I clicked it and was let in somehow right away. And then we went on vacation. So I did this right before we went on vacation. So while I was on vacation, I kind of followed the page a little bit, and I was missing some things back in Evansville, like the thunder and the air show and stuff, and there was really cool pictures, like, oh, so that's what people are picturing, just picturing, putting up everything, all kinds of cool stuff. So I got less timid and eventually began putting some things up. The EPG has helped me immensely when it comes to learning more about photography. I mean, we have such knowledgeable people there, and they're non-competitive. We're not out there slashing throats and trying to keep our information about our great location for a sunset or astrophotography tips or anything like that. Nobody's keeping that stuff secret and being like, well, figure it out yourself. I love that. I love that we share. We have knowledgeable people like Jason and Tom and so many others who are free to, free with their advice. They don't say, well, I could tell you that, but you'd have to charge you or whatever. I'd have to kill you or whatever. I mean, they'll give you links to the stuff that they've bought. So it's not like, well, I'm not going to tell you where I got that new tripod. There's a link right to it. So if you're interested, or if they find deals, even if it's equipment that they don't have, they think someone else might be interested in. So I've learned just a ton of information, everything from composition by looking at other people's pictures, all the way to more gear to buy and ways to shoot and everything. So the EPG has helped me immensely. I think my photography has grown just by leaps and bounds in the last 2 years since finding that page roughly in about June of 2015. I am so thankful, so very thankful. And the people, obviously, all the people are great too. Hanging out and doing the photo shoots is a lot of fun because I'm meeting more and more people, and I'm also coming out of my shell a little bit with my own personality. So what I struggle with most, I think, still is composition and trying to get the emotion that I'm feeling at the time I take the picture that the scene is giving me, to get that into the picture. That the viewer of my picture down the road will have the same sort of feeling of awe or amazement or whatever emotion that's going to evoke. I'm still struggling to find the right things to take pictures of sometimes. It's a little challenging in Evansville because we have, summers can get hot and humid and buggy. You tend to want to stay indoors. Okay, the good pictures just aren't indoors. So some of the challenges and what I struggle with are sometimes making myself go out and find the picture. Saying, okay, you're going to go out there and look for this or that. Look under this leaf for a bug, or look closer at that flower. So sometimes it's making myself look for pictures when it's easy sometimes to just stay indoors where the temperature, the humidity, and everything else, the environment is really more, comfortable or whatever. So I have no problem. I don't struggle with going to do things with other photographers. That is not a problem. If there's an opportunity to get together with one or more photographers, I'm always up for that. Okay, tips if you were starting out now in photography. I would say probably find somebody whose work you admire, that you want to find out more about how they do it, what equipment they use, whether you need to know how to use your own equipment, but find someone's work who you admire and see if they will mentor you or guide you in some way. Ask lots of questions, try not to be pesky if there's a fine line between the two, but if you admire their work, you truly admire it, then I think if you ask them, they'll be more than happy to help you learn whatever it is you need to know, whether it's how to operate your gear, what lenses to buy, or if it's where to take photos, that type of thing. But find someone who can mentor you. That would be and study, practice, take pictures, and use software always. When I was telling people last night at First Friday that I work on photography every single day, they're like, really? And I said, yes, every single day has photography. Either I'm taking pictures, I'm editing pictures I've taken from a previous outing, or I'm learning about photography in some way or another, but every single day pretty much I'm doing photography. I don't do it just on the weekends, I don't do it just one night a week. It is every single day. So you can't get better at anything, whether it's photography or playing a musical instrument or even driving your car. You're good at driving your car, right? Because you drive it every day. If you drove it once in a while, you'd be a little shaky at it. You might have a wreck more often. Same thing with photography. Do it every day in some way or another. Take a picture of the cat or dog if you're, practice your composition skills or your lighting or something on an inanimate object. Get a child's doll and try different lighting tricks on it. You don't have to always have a human in your picture to practice. So I would say practice on whatever you can, be creative, read, study, watch videos, YouTube is your friend. Paid or unpaid, there's a lot of information out there, so find a mentor, practice every day, and study on your own. Probably the best ways to get going with it. Photography to me, what it means to me is pretty much an escape from the analytical side of my life and my job. It's creative, it's something that I can express myself doing, so I think that's what it means to me, as a way for me to make my mark on the world in a different way than maybe raising my kids left a mark on the world, or a different way that doing my job and things for the library where I work has made a mark on that world. So it's a different way to make a mark on the world. So I think it's my expression of what I think is important, because I think I saw a quote somewhere that photographers take pictures of things they don't want to lose. So if you take pictures of people, you don't want to lose them because it pretty much immortalizes them. I do the same with nature, that type of thing. As I said earlier, it tends to change. Even things you think, oh, the Washington Monument or whatever's been done 100 times, thousands of times, but the day that you take a picture of it, it's still going to be something you've experienced it, you're taking it how you see it, the angles you think are the best, and then lighting that you had that day or night to take the picture. So for me, it means I'm just putting my mark on the world. What inspires me are a lot of things. Usually it's other photographers' work. If I see somebody's work that I really like, instead of getting down and out that, oh, they got a better picture than I could have done, or they're so good I'll never be like that. I don't normally think like that. It drives me to say, hey, why can't you do that? You could be just as good. You could stand in probably the same spot, or show up at the same time of day, or do something even better, not so much competitive, but just why not try to do the same thing? What am I passionate about? Well, let's see here. Well, photography, books, reading, that kind of thing. Nature. I mean, that is why I photograph nature, because that is really where my passion is. I grew up in the country as a kid until I moved to Evansville. So for me, capturing nature in all of its glory, all the different moods, colors, and lights is really my passion. If I could just throw down the shackles of work right now and just run off into the sunset, that's what I would do. Is I would take pictures of nature until I ran out of battery power and memory and all of that. But that is really my passion, is capturing nature, because I think nature, especially as we become a more urbanized society, everything is big cities and urban sprawl, I think people still gravitate, even if they can't get away to experience it themselves, maybe a picture for their office or their home of some place that they've either liked to go to or they've been to themselves. But I think having nature in people's lives, whether they experience it directly or indirectly through a picture, I think that speaks to everyone, and that is my passion, is to bring that to other people as well as to myself. One of the things people probably don't know about me, maybe a few do, is that I am a certified elite national weather spotter for the National Weather Service in Paducah. I've yet to combine the love of weather with photography. I've done a few things here and there, but because I still work full time and I'm indoors, I can't just spot some great, wall cloud coming towards me that's about to produce a tornado, or see anything really fabulous unless it happens between 5 at night and dark, whenever dark is, what time of year it is, or on the weekends. So unless weather fits in those time frames, that plus photography is a little hard for me to combine. But that's probably the one thing not most people know. That's been my passion since I was a kid, when strangely enough, my grandmother bought me a scrapbook for Christmas one year. Most kids, little girls especially, would put, pictures of models or, whatever girly stuff. I cut out pictures of tornadoes and other news stories related to weather and put them in there. I'm weird, but that's been a passion right along with the photography as a kid. I never thought of combining them as a kid. I just was fascinated by especially tornadoes. So that's probably one of the weird things about me. Just clean enough for the video. My name is Andrea Kappler, and I am a nature and fine arts photographer.